To make advanced changes to a selected image, you can use the Format Picture dialog box to control every aspect of your clip art in minute detail. You can access the Format Picture dialog box by clicking the Format Shape button in the lower right corner of the Picture Styles group on the Format tab. Remember that in order for the Format tab to appear, we must have a clip art or image selected. The options that you can change for your selected image are grouped by category within this dialog box. You can see the categories shown in a list at the left side. To use the box, you select a category from the left side and then make any changes to the available settings shown within the category at the right side. Once you have finished making your changes, you can then click the Close button to close the box. Unlike many other dialog boxes, the changes that you make here are applied immediately as they are set, so you may need to use the Reset Picture button to reset your image after experimenting with the settings if you do not like them. This lesson will examine the settings that we can change in each category. First, let's examine the various categories and what can be changed in each. The categories that you can select are Fill, Line Color and Line Style, Shadow, Reflection, Glow and Soft Edges, 3D Format and Rotation, Picture Corrections, Picture Color, Artistic Effects, Crop, Text Box, and Alternate Text. The first thing that you should note is that some of the options may not be available for the type of object you have selected. For example, the Artistic Effects option is only available when you have a picture selected, not clip art. And in our case, we have clip art selected, so this section appears grayed out. You can click the Fill category in order to change the settings that affect the appearance of the inside fill of some types of clip art. For this to be used effectively with images, the selected image must contain a transparent section. If the image is already completely filled with its own content, then changing these settings would produce no visible effect. However, if your selected image contains a transparent background, then you can use the settings in the Fill section to format the background area within the image. You can select the No Fill option to remove any fill effect from the selected image. You can select the Solid Fill option to fill the background of the image with the color of your choosing. You simply use the Color drop-down button to select the desired color to use. You can then use the Transparency slider to set the level of transparency that should be applied to the background fill. You can select the Gradient Fill option to fill the background of the image with the multicolor gradient. A gradient is simply a color that transitions in hue and/or transparency from one angle to another. You can choose from one of the preset gradients available by making a selection from the Preset Colors dropdown. If you want to make your own custom gradient, then you can use the additional buttons and sliders to customize it. You can use the Type dropdown to select the type of gradient you want to use. Linear, which changes colors from one side to another across a straight line. Radial, which changes colors starting from an origin point and then radiates outwards in a circular pattern. Rectangular, which changes colors starting from an origin point and then radiates outwards in a rectangular pattern. Or Path, which follows the path of a line that you draw. Once you have selected a type of gradient, you can then select the specific variation that you would like to use from the Direction dropdown. If you selected a linear gradient type, you may also select the angle at which the gradient changes by entering the desired angle in degrees into the Angle spinner box. The Gradient Stop section allows you to set the number and appearance of changing points in the gradient's color scheme. At its most basic level, a gradient must have at least 2 gradient stops. You can have more if desired. In this section, click on a gradient stop to select the gradient stop whose properties you wish to set. You can click and drag one of the gradient stops to change its position within the gradient, or you can enter its position as a percentage into the Position slider. You can then use the Color dropdown to set what color you want the gradient to be at the selected point. You can also use the brightness and transparency sliders to set the level of brightness and transparency for that selected gradient stop. To add more stops to your gradient, you simply click into the gradient line at the spot where you wish to place a new gradient stop. You could also click the Add Gradient Stop button to the right of the gradient line to add a new stop as well. If you wish to remove a stop, select the stop that you want to delete and make sure it appears highlighted, and then click the Remove Gradient Stop button. At the bottom of this tab, you can check the Rotate with Shape checkbox in order to set the gradient fill to rotate with the image if the image is rotated. Back at the top of the Fill section, you can choose the Picture or Texture Fill button to fill the background of the selected image with another image of your choosing. Textures are simply preset images that are included in Word. To apply one of the preset textures, you can select your choice from the texture drop-down. If you want to use a picture located on your computer, you can click the File button to open up the Insert Picture dialog box where you can select the image file from your computer to insert. You can also click the Clipboard button to paste the contents of your clipboard into the background of the image. If you want to insert another piece of clip art into the background, you can click the Clip Art button to open up the Select Picture dialog box. You can then use this dialog box to search for clip art to insert into the background. If you want to tile or repeat the background, you can check the Tile Picture as Texture checkbox. Then, in the Tiling Options section, you can set the Offset X, Offset Y, Scale X, and Scale Y to set the amount of horizontal and vertical offset to apply to the background image. You can also use the Alignment and Mirror type drop-downs to further customize. If you deselect this checkbox, you will then see the Stretch options appear. You can change the background image's offset settings in this Stretch Options section by using the left, right, top, and bottom spinner boxes to input the percentage by which the image should be offset from the selected side. Finally, you can set the amount of transparency to apply to the background by using the Transparency slider. Once again, you can also check this checkbox to rotate the inside image with the shape. If you wish to set a pattern fill for the selected image, then choose the Pattern Fill option. Then select a desired pattern to use for the fill for the image from the choices shown below. You can then use the foreground and background color drop-downs to set the desired foreground and background colors to use for the fill pattern. The next category is line color. As applied to images, these attributes set the color of the picture's border. The three options shown at the right are No Line, Solid Line, or Gradient Line. If you do not want to have a line or wish to remove a line that has been applied, you can select the No Line option. If you wish to apply a solid line, then select the Solid Line option. Notice that when you do this, additional settings become available. First, select a color for the line border from the Color drop-down. If the colors shown aren't quite what you need, notice that you can select the More Colors command at the bottom of the color palette in order to open the Colors dialog box. In the Colors dialog box, you can create almost any color you desire. This dialog box is available in almost all of the places where you can choose a color in Word. You can click either the Standard tab and then select one of the colors from the honeycomb of color choices, or you can click the Custom tab and then select the color you want. Notice that the Transparency slider appears in both of these tabs. Once you have selected a color, you can click the OK button to return to the Format Picture dialog box. Notice that the Transparency slider also appears in this section as well. If you want to apply a gradient line, you can select the Gradient Line option in order to view a different set of options in the line color area. You can apply a gradient to a border in the same way that you can apply a gradient to a fill, so these options should be familiar to you, as we just covered them in the Fill section. You can click the Line Style category in order to make changes to any line, or in this case picture border, that changes its thickness and appearance. Use the Width spinner box to set the width of the line. If you want to have a multi-line border, use the Compound Type drop-down to select the style of multi-line appearance that you want to use. You can also use the Dash Type drop-down to select the style of line that you want to apply. There are several styles of dashed lines available. In the Cap Type drop-down, you can change the appearance of the ends of lines. This isn't often used in applying picture borders. However, the Join type is. The Join Type drop-down allows you to set the appearance of the junction points where two lines meet. Also note that if working with arrows, which Word considers a type of line, you can set their appearance in the Arrows Settings section. This would not be the case with picture borders, however. You can click the Shadow category at the left side of this dialog box in order to view the settings at the right that allow you to apply a shadow to your selected image. You can easily apply one of the pre-created shadow styles by selecting one from the Presets drop-down. If you want to customize your shadow's appearance, then you can start by choosing a shadow color from the Color drop-down. You set the transparency of the shadow by using the Transparency slider. You can set the size of the shadow by selecting a percentage from the Size slider. You can use the Blur slider to set the amount of blurring applied to the edge of the shadow. You can set the angle of the shadow by entering the desired angle into the Angle text box or by moving the slider to the desired setting. You can also control the amount of vertical offset that is applied to the shadow by using the Distance slider. You can click the Reflection category at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box to view settings to the right that allow you to apply or alter a reflection for your selected image. You can change which reflection is applied by selecting a desired reflection from the Presets drop-down. You can also simply enter your desired values into the Transparency, Size, Distance, and Blur spinner boxes to create a custom reflection for your image. You can click the Glow and Soft Edges category to view settings to the right that allow you to apply or alter any glowing or soft edges applied to your selected image. In the Glow section, you can change which glowing effect is applied by selecting a desired glow variation from the Presets drop-down. You can also simply enter your desired values into the Size and Transparency spinner boxes to create a custom glow effect for your image. In the Soft Edges section, you can set the amount of softening of the image's edges by selecting a desired amount from the Presets drop-down. You can also enter your desired value into the Size spinner box to create custom soft edges for your image. If you want to apply a 3D effect to your selected image, then start by clicking the 3D Format button at the left side of the Format Picture dialog box. In the Bevel section, you can use the top and bottom drop-down buttons to select a style and thickness of beveling to apply. You can also enter values into the width and height spinner boxes if desired. In the Depth section, you can use the Color drop-down to select a coloring for the beveling depth. You can also set the amount of coloring applied to the beveling by using the Depth spinner box. Likewise, in the Contour section, you can use the Color drop-down to select a color for the contour of the bevel. You can then set the size of the contour by entering the size of the contour into the Size spinner box. In the Surface section, you apply settings that change the appearance of the material and lighting used in the 3D setting. Use the Material drop-down to select the type of material that the 3D effect should emulate. Then use the Lighting drop-down to select the intensity and style of lighting to apply. You can then use the Angle spinner box to set the angle of the lighting if desired. You can rotate the image in 3D space by changing the settings that appear in the 3D Rotation category. When you select this category, you can easily apply a 3D rotation by selecting one from the Presets drop-down. If you wish to apply your own custom rotation, then you can use the buttons and sliders in the rotation section to accomplish that. If you wish to apply your own custom rotation, then you can use the buttons and sliders in the rotation section. Use the buttons for the angle spinner boxes for each axis, X, Y, and Z. If you selected a perspective style in the 3D rotation from the presets dropdown, then you will be able to enter an angle into the perspective spinner box. If you were applying a 3D rotation to a text box, you would be able to keep the text appearing flat by checking the Keep Text Flat checkbox. This does not apply to pictures, however, so that is why in our example it is grayed out. You can use the distance from the ground spinner box to set the amount of space that the selected object will appear to be from the ground. You can click the Picture Corrections category to make adjustments to the selected image. Note that for Picture Corrections, Picture Color, and Artistic Effects categories, unless you have an actual picture selected, you may not be able to change many options to the right. These options do not usually appear for drawn graphics. Otherwise, you will see some options at the right side of the Format Picture dialog box that will allow you to perform some of the basic image editing that you can also perform using the buttons available on the Format tab of the Picture Tools Contextual tab. In the Picture Corrections category, you can alter the settings that control the clarity, brightness, and contrast of the selected picture. In the Sharpen and Soften section, you can use the Presets dropdown to select a desired picture clarity. You can also use the adjacent slider to set the clarity between the Soften and Sharpen, or simply enter a percentage into the spinner box in this section. In the Brightness and Contrast section, you can use the Presets dropdown to select a desired brightness and contrast for your selected picture. You can also use the Brightness and Contrast sliders to set the amount of brightness and contrast for your selected image, or enter a percentage into the adjacent spinner boxes. If needed, you can click the Reset button to reset your changes to the selected picture. In the Picture Color category, you can select a preset color saturation from the Presets dropdown, located in the Color Saturation section. Enter your desired color saturation percentage by using the slider, or directly enter a value into the spinner box. In the Color Tone section, you can select a preset color tone to apply from the Presets dropdown. You can enter a temperature using the adjacent slider, or enter a value into the temperature spinner box. In the Recolor section, you can use the Presets dropdown to select a color to apply to the image. If you click the Artistic Effects category, you will see an Artistic Effect drop-down button appear to the right that allows you to select a desired effect. In our example, since we don't have an image selection, then this will be grayed out. If you make a selection and you do not like it, you can always click the Reset button to reset your image. If you click the Crop category, you can set the amount of cropping to apply to the selected image. You can enter a desired width and height for your image into the width and height spinner boxes. You can also enter a desired offset for the image in either the X or Y axes by entering that amount into either the Offset X or Offset Y text boxes. In the Crop Position section, you can enter the desired amounts by which to crop the image by using the width, height, left and top spinner boxes to set the desired cropping amounts. If you click the Text Box category, you will see options at the right that you can use to make changes to selected text boxes. Since these objects only apply to text-containing shapes, like word art and text boxes, we will review these settings in Lesson 13.7, the Format Shape dialog box. Finally, you can click the Alt Text category to set a title and description of the image for persons who use a screen reader to view image content. You can enter a title for the image into the title text box, and then enter a description of the image into the description text box. This information should certainly be entered for the selected image if you plan on publishing the Word document to the internet as a web page. When you have finished applying your desired settings to the selected image, click the Close button in the lower right corner of this dialog box to close the dialog box and apply your changes. If you are not happy with your settings, make sure that the picture is selected, and then click the Reset Picture button.